But what is interesting is, again, that the, sorry, I have to rush through it, that the politicians in London did not even mention that the crisis was not just the crisis of the subprime market in the United States and its derivatives. That is sometimes the impression that you get if you look at newspapers and you look at the comments from politicians all around the world. The impression is, oh, it was just a crisis of the subprime market in the United States. That is not true. That is absolutely not true. What we have seen is that the collapse of the pyramid of speculation, the speculative pyramid in the United States, triggered the collapse of some other speculative pyramids all around the world. There were speculative pyramids, bubbles in many markets. And the most important markets were clearly stock markets, and the other market that is totally neglected, which is extremely important for workers all around the world, which is extremely important for most developing countries, including least developed countries, is commodities. I mentioned already, the oil price cannot be explained by just supply and demand on the real side, so from the people who really demand oil or the people who really supply oil. It is not true. What we have seen, and this is shown in these curves, we have an incredible increase of money flowing into these markets, in commodity markets, and not only for oil, but for any kind of other goods like grain, like soybeans and copper, whatever you take. In many markets, you had a huge increase of inflow of money. People were trading on the futures of the futures markets, and they were definitely driving the prices. They were definitely driving the prices. That is sometimes not fully understood by my colleague economists, I must say, including Paul Krugman and others. But it is true. It's definitely true that these expectations of higher prices that were coming from the futures markets were driving the prices on the spot markets, and in this way were making commodities much more expensive for the consumers and giving the illusion of a high price forever for the producers. Both was proved to be wrong, and both is dramatically misleading all kind of real decisions on real investment that you want to take on the ground, investment in exploration, investment in sustainable energy consumption, and so on. All these investments have proven to be unsustainable because of the unsustainability and the viability and the variability of these markets. And this is the crucial chart. Unfortunately, it's a bit small, but the message is very simple. What we have done in UNCTAD, we have looked at different markets. So the market for commodities, the market for stocks, and the market for some currencies. This is Japanese yen vis-a-vis other currencies. And if you look at these markets for 6 months, this covers a period of 6 months. If you look at these markets for 6 months, you find a correlation in all of these uncorrelated markets. In reality, from their substance, they're uncorrelated. You find extremely high correlation. You find an extremely high correlation of the movement of prices up or down, which means, very simply, that all these speculators all around the world in the brave new world of globalization, they all have their different screens before them. They have a screen for commodities, they have a screen for currencies, they have a screen for stocks. And then whatever happens, they go in and out of these markets at the same time, exactly at the same time. They do not care about the question whether a stock is fundamentally justified, a stock price is fundamentally justified or not. They do not care whether oil price is too high or too low. They do not care whether currencies are driving countries into bankruptcy, like Iceland or Hungary and others. They do not care. And that is the problem, that they do not care, and they drive the prices for a time. But this is, and you see, if you see it like that, and you look again at the comments that we get from our politicians and the G20 meeting in particular in London, then you see that it's absolutely inadequate what they're saying. The word commodity does not appear in the G20 communique. The word currency does not appear in the G20 communique. The only thing they say, yeah, there have been some excesses in these markets, and we have to regulate them better. That is not enough. We have to say much more clearly, we have to say the markets are overshooting. They're overshooting and they're undershooting, and they're doing it all the time. And the more people engage in this globalized economy, and the more people have computerized equipment to do so, the more people can trade from hour to hour, or in minutes or seconds. They can buy and sell products all around the world. The more it goes in the wrong direction, and the worse the outcome is for the real economy. And this is the real message that we have to convey to our politicians, that we are not interested, and the world cannot be interested, in the globalized world in particular, and the developing countries in particular, cannot be interested in this kind of casino activity. Because this kind of casino activity is not productive. It's not producing additional income. It's just casino, and casino is always zero-sum game. What you have is a global zero-sum game in all of these markets. So it's not producing anything. It's not producing anything that can be distributed. No income is generated, but it's just taking from those that are not, mainly those that are not gamblers, to the gamblers for a time. But sooner or later, the whole thing collapses. But why does it collapse? Well, it's very simple to understand. Because we, the real people, the people on the ground, the workers all around the world, they cannot afford to buy these goods anymore. They cannot live with an overvalued currency. They cannot buy oil at $150 anymore. And then suddenly one realizes, oh, the whole thing is going to collapse. And then it's too late. Then it's too late, because then too many people have gambled with too much money that they have borrowed from banks or other institutions, and then they all go bankrupt, and then we are in the trouble in which we are right now, and then they have to be bailed out by governments. This is the tragedy that it's not new at all. It was not a new game. It was nothing new in town. It was not productive, and nevertheless, the whole world has allowed that all these pyramids have been building up and have been allowed to collapse in the end. It was mentioned that I was working in a German finance ministry 10 years ago, immediately after the Asian crisis. Immediately after the Asian crisis, believe it or not, there was a tendency in the international community, and it's still there today, there was a tendency to detract the attention away from the real questions. And the real question in Asia was clearly that we do not have a global monetary system. We have some kind of global trading system, but we do not have a global monetary system. We have no systemic, no reasonable regulation of the whole financial system. And we do not have, even with open capital accounts all around the world, we do not have a solution for developing countries to find a reasonable exchange rate regime. And you see how desperate many countries are. They're dollarizing their economies. They're attaching their economies. They're pegging their currency to other currencies without any multilateral assistance. They're doing all kinds of things because they're desperate about this question, how can I survive in this globalized economy with an open capital account that I'm forced to have? I'm forced to have it without a reasonable exchange rate regime. And it is not there. The exchange rate regime is pro-cyclical. It's leading into wrong direction. It's leading systematically into overvaluation of developing countries, and so on. But after Asia, you see, in Asia, the solution then was, the solution in inverted commas was to say what we do is we create a new institution. You know, that new institution was called Financial Stability Forum. This Financial Stability Forum that was created in 1999 has reported every half year to the IMF in Washington about its findings about the global financial stability. And believe me, I have been there mostly all the time in spring and in autumn in Washington listening to the chairman of the Financial Stability Forum. And what the chairman said, up to April 2008, the chairman said, oh, everything is okay. No problem in the world. Everything in order. All capital flows are fine. They're increasing wealth. They're increasing growth. And they're securing our jobs.